Sunday, May 7th, here in Malacca, Malaysia, and we are reflecting on our time in this wonderful city, this ancient city that was founded in 1400, over 600 years ago, and it's been through a lot. It's been a sultanate, and it's been conquered by the Portuguese, and then the Dutch, and then the British, and then briefly the Japanese, and then the British came back, and then it became independent, and now this historic port city has been upstaged by Singapore, a little further on the edge of the strait here between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean as the big regional shipping center. And now we've been drifting through the monuments to Malacca's past. So we came here how long ago? 2 weeks ago?
I think it was about 2 weeks ago, but it seems like we've done so much in that amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We took a bus from Kuala Lumpur and we were looking for a place to stay a little bit longer than usual. And so we had to scout out quite a few places. But we first stayed in this dingy old hotel with bad air conditioning.
Yeah.
But it had no windows, so it was really dark.
But Keith likes that because
I
it
love
helps
that.
him sleep
But
with no light.
I think they might have had bright lights attached to the wall, like attached to the aircon unit.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, which is always irritating.
Anyways, we stayed there
Yeah.
and we...
Ate at the food stall across the
Yeah,
street.
across the street,
Giant
actually.
outdoor, open-air feeding halls. It's like
Yeah,
a big...
it was like street food. So it was, there were all these little stations with different food available. So there was actually even some like Thai food available, and there
Malay,
was Malay,
and Chinese, and different types of Malay and different types of Chinese.
yeah, and then you could get buckets of beer at a special price.
Yeah, they had the food they have in Borneo too, which I
did.
really want to
I
go
haven't
back
tried
and
that one,
try
though.
because it was dirt cheap and it had all these eggs and special colored rice.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of food too. It was like
lot
a
of
big
food,
platter.
meat, and
It was fun eating there though, because I think we would be there sometimes at like 9 o'clock at night, and they would have the game on the television. I think,
big old soccer game.
yeah, big soccer game, and so all these men would be hanging out, drinking some beers, eating some food, and watching the game in the background. And Keith and I were just eating there, kind of checking out the scene, and it was fun. Everybody was having a good time and relaxing, and the food was good. It was fresh, right off the grill.
Oh yeah.
And
You could see the families. Like one family, they had a crib right behind their cash register with this little. How old was that kid?
oh, maybe like a little 3-year-old.
You know, he was bouncing up and down in the.
Yeah, the
the
woman who
crib
made
and-
food, like she had her little food stall, and then behind her food stall was the crib with her kid in there, and the kid would hang out and bounce around in the crib while she made food.
Exuberant baby. I was playing weird peekaboo long distance visual signaling. with the
Kid got a kick out of you. Oh my gosh, he was
Oh
laughing.
yeah. But we were also next to the Portuguese settlement. Remember?
Yeah.
And that seemed like Southern California. That was like the only place in Malaysia so far where they had bungalows.
They did.
Yeah, it was all level.
It was much more flat feeling. Like there weren't huge apartment buildings there. It was like flat homes.
Flat with bungalows and a big Catholic school and lots of bars on windows and people casually biking around the hood and a few stray dogs.
Well, in Catholic school is kind of interesting because this city is mostly Muslim,
Yeah.
right? So it kind of stood out as like this little enclave.
Oh, yeah, but this is the Portuguese settlement. I don't know legally exactly. I doubt they're like, if you're Catholic, you must stay here. I really doubt that. But there's this Portuguese feeding area down by the shore. And there's a big jetty that was supposedly haunted that I wanted to check out. And they say when you go there at night, fishermen are afraid of it, and giant, dark entities will come up and appear like 50 feet tall and slowly creep up over you and terrify the hell out of you. And I don't know. The last time I read that was before they built this bar at the end, playing loud music with bright lights and stuff. So nothing kills haunted places like gentrification. But we were approached by a Portuguese guy. I located how to get like cheap meat, and there was this little burger shack that was right next to the Portuguese settlement for like it's been around for 20, 25 years, and it had rave reviews. They're like, look, you want a really good burger for your money and just meat without having to worry about rice and noodles and all that stuff, just go here. It costs like $1.50 for a giant slab of meat wrapped in eggs. And so we did that, and then we were sitting down to eat on the edge of the shore, with the Portuguese restaurants behind us, and this guy came up. And
This guy with really brilliant blue eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looked kind of...
And like this dark skin, so his eyes are really
The
shiny.
contrast
Yeah.
was obvious, and yeah, he looked a little different than the locals, and he was like, "Hello, are you Portuguese?" To Shamar. And
I
Shamar,
look a little Portuguese, maybe.
I was like, "No, but she has some Spanish ancestry, so maybe that explains." And
Exactly.
he was like, "Oh, okay. I'm Portuguese. I speak English, but I also speak Portuguese." He had kind of a refined accent, like he learned it in his private Catholic school around the corner. He's like, a long time ago, the Portuguese left us here, dropped us off when they ran away. So we're the remnants. If you want chipino or any good seafood, please come back to our food stalls over there. And it's like, okay, but I'm eating a burger. And he was
Next time.
he was nice enough. I was like, next time. Then we looked online, and the Portuguese restaurants all had horrible reviews. And like,
About how people were totally attacked by all these Portuguese food sellers, and they were all like clamoring to get business, like come to our hotel. No, I'm sorry, our restaurant. No, our restaurant. And
we almost went again to try to the area to get Portuguese food later, but there was we read all those reviews, and we're like, yeah, we're tired. I don't really feel like doing that anyway, but we'll check it out eventually. And the taxi driver who took us to the bus terminal in Kuala Lumpur, this hyper dude. He's Chinese,
gosh,
Malaysian.
that's right.
He was just
This taxi
jam-packed.
driver.
He was cramming in so much information into every minute.
He talked a mile a minute. He had so much information to share with us.
We didn't even ask. We were like,
Oh, he was telling us everything
And
we
he-
should do and should not do while we're here.
He would not stop. And after 5 minutes, I was like, yeah, he's not going to stop.
He's the type of person you're just like, okay, this guy's not going to stop talking.
This
Like,
is his baseline. And he was like, yeah, okay, you're going to Malacca? Malacca, okay, Malacca. Well, Malacca, don't eat the seafood there. Don't eat the seafood. I was thinking, the Portuguese food is known for the seafood. But he was like, no, the seafood
And it's
there.
on the ocean.
It's not local, so don't go there. If you want seafood, go to Penang and other places.
Mangawi
Mangawi, yeah. And so don't eat the seafood. Yeah, don't eat the seafood. But I should tell you, don't wear long pants. It's slightly hotter there and more humid than Kuala Lumpur.
but he talks even faster than this.
Even
though.
faster than this. And he was like, okay, well, the local cuisine is called Baba Nonya. Baba Nonya, all right, Baba means man, Nonya means woman. So man, woman. A long time ago, when the Chinese came, they married into the Sultanate's family, and so they had babies that were mixed Chinese and Malay, and they created their own hybrid culture and cuisine. So Baba Nonya, try the food, Baba Nonya. And he gave me a list of stuff to try, and I have them on my phone somewhere, but I haven't been able to try very much, just some. And apparently the Sultanate, over 500 years ago, the Emperor Yangla, his daughter, he sent one of his daughters to marry the Sultan of Malacca, and she brought with her 500 people, like servants and such, to live with her. And so the Sultan designated a hill for all of her people to stay, and that was basically the first Chinatown in the area. On this big hill, it was forested, and they had like a kind of like a palace, a place to chill out. And we went there, and now, apparently, when the Portuguese came, they cut down all the trees to make a monastery on top of the hill, and over the years, the Chinese stopped living there, and it turned into a big graveyard. And we went there, and it's called Bukit, which means hill, China, Bukit China, or Bukit Sina, or Kina.
I'm not
I think
sure.
Bukit Sina. I think Cina. Yeah. So we went there, and that was absolutely ghostly and amazing.
Yeah, it was. And we were there right at
Dusk.
dusk. So the sun was going down and it made it even a little bit more eerie. I was, as always, I was like the scaredy cat. And I was like, why are we going to the graveyard? I'm really scared. The sun's going down. We're going to get stuck here. Oh my God, ghosts. But
I wanted to see it go.
But of course, Keith wanted to see, and in the end, he was right. It was really beautiful once my nerves settled down, and it was up high, overlooking the city. So once we got up to the graveyard was like up on this hill. So once we got to the top, if we could look over the city, it was really beautiful.
The graves are cool.
Yeah.
They're designed by feng shui principles. And so they're like kind of elaborate tombs. And there's monuments. I guess there's the Engchun Association. So like a collective association of Chinese people in the area made part of it their cemetery. If not all of it, I'm not sure. But oh, gorgeous. There's some forested areas that with like gullies and such with trails, and yeah, no, that was great.
It was really beautiful.
So
yeah.
I had to.
And there were these.
And it's not on the map. If you look online, like there's no marker that says cemetery. It's just this gray area with no marker. Beautiful.
Yeah, and there were some beautiful trees with these really ornate flowers. I don't know what they were called. But
And leftover bundles of incense sticking out in front of the graves. And there's like one guy who left his motorcycle in the middle of the big graveyard. We walked in, he was just always about 500 feet ahead of us.
He would like
off in the
appear and
distance.
disappear. I'd be like, is that a ghost?
Yeah.
But no, it was just a guy taking a walk in a red sweater.
Yeah, I think that graveyard was really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we tried the Babanonia food. It's okay. Maybe we got to try it out a little bit more. And did the manic taxi driver tell us anything else?
He told us so much.
So much.
But I think I was so tired from the heat. A lot of what he said just kind of left me.
A lot of it I already knew because I researched it already. That's why I was going. But I don't know. He was saying wear shorts. And so I tried wearing jeans to be modest for like 2 days. And then I was like, absolutely not.
It's too hot.
Kuala Lumpur maybe, but not here. So I've been wearing shorts. And
Though still a lot of the locals are covered up. I mean, especially the women, their head is covered, their arms are covered, their legs are covered.
They're adapted to the heat.
Yeah, but
and humidity.
And I did that. I wore my conservative dress for the first like week and a half, but finally the last few days I just started wearing my shorts and a t-shirt. So
yeah. Oh, one thing the guy said is like he wanted to know where we were going, and we told him like Penang and other places, and he gave us some tips. And then I was also like Pulau Besar, the island off the coast of Malacca, the island of tombs and ghosts. And he was like, oh, okay, go there, but you have to do the private boat and blah, 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 blah. And it's just, don't eat pork. Don't eat pork. When you go there, don't eat pork. Don't eat pork. And he just didn't say why, but he was implying like, yeah, this is a very sacred place for Muslim pilgrimages, and you must respect their customs. But there's like no restaurants there. At least when we were there.
yeah, maybe there
There's
was
no. I mean, maybe he was afraid we were gonna like bundle up some pork chops in our backpacks and like
bring some bacon
and like
for the
eat
camp out.
fistfuls of bacon in front of all the pilgrims. No, well, it's a good tip, but we were not planning on eating pork. In fact, I refused to eat pork right beforehand.
Yeah, up until we went to that island.
Yeah, I was.
You
It
didn't
was
eat
like, was it a week? Or
Yeah.
like 5 days?
It was
Something.
at least a week.
At least a week. Yeah, I was like, all right, no pork, no booze. Gonna get ready. I'm gonna be on the same
purification.
I'm gonna be on the same wavelength as the pilgrims. It's gonna be cool. Let's see. Jonker Street. You have to mention Jonker Street.
yeah.
That's like what's basically Chinatown, but like all these old compact buildings.
Well, and this place, like on the weekends, it fills up. Jonker Street Market happens like every Friday, Saturday. I think Sunday
It
too.
was still Eid al-Fitr when we went, so it was
It was
packed.
so packed.
I hated it. I hated it. There's like these little buggies with bright lights, and there's no reason why their speakers had to be so loud. Like this was just
Oh,
like,
blaring speakers on these buggies.
hurting
So
my
like the
ears,
the
man.
parent and their kid would sit in these little like it was like these little
Rickshaw.
rickshaw sort of things, but they were decorated with cartoon characters. So one was decorated with Pokemon, one was Hello Kitty, another one was like My Little Pony. So it was like all these cartoon character decorations on a rickshaw with blasting music, like the loudest music. And I'm thinking, how could anybody even sit in there without that blasting out their ears? But the kids seem to love it.
If you could subtract one of three things, that or the heat or just all the people,
Well-
then it would have been bearable. But all three of those things
Together.
just awful. Even at
Well,
night, it seemed to get worse.
And when we went to Jonker Street the first night, I think we were there on a Saturday night, and it was so packed that we could barely squeeze through the main street. It was like shoulder to shoulder amount of people, and they were selling all kinds of food and trinkets and different types of drinks. The big drink that everybody comes here to get is the coconut shake, and it has coconut juice or coconut water and some ice, and then they actually even put some coconut ice cream in it, and I got one of those. It was so good. I had to go back and get another one the next day.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it's so good.
oh yeah, that was
So I can attest that the coconut shakes are delicious.
It was really good. So we've tried the coconut shakes. We saw the Dutch graveyard. Remember that? There's another one that was higher up. Remember it had this kind of bombed out cathedral, which was just surrounded by
Oh,
graveyards.
the fort?
The fort. Well,
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
fort at the bottom, and then at the top, I think at one point it was a fort, but then when the Dutch took it over, they might have, I don't know if they turned it into cathedral. There's a weird sequence of exchange. It's been conquered so many times, but the Dutch have, and later the British were putting their graves in there. So you can go inside.
Well, there were tombstones,
Giant
huge
tombstones from
like probably
400 years ago.
and they were maybe 6 feet tall by like 3 or 4 feet wide. These things were huge.
Yeah.
And then they had the
Inscriptions,
names
yeah.
of the people like etched into the stone, and some of them even had a drawing or an etching of like a skull or like a pirate looking.
Yeah.
It was almost like a pirate looking skull on the tombstone. They were really interesting looking, and there were a lot of these. Maybe like
Awesome.
at least 20 of them. Maybe.
When we were escaping the rickshaws, I was like, let's go up there. Got to go up this big hill
Yeah, it was
surrounded by
up a big
graves,
hill.
and then you go into the cathedral, and then there's tombstones inside of it. Oh, it's awesome. Great little private place. So the
It was
Chinese
really- yeah, it was really
Grave Hill and the Dutch Grave Hill, both amazing. And let's see, Jonker Street, that was crowded. It's fine when it's not on the weekend.
Yeah, we discovered later that week when we were walking around like Tuesday that we loved it so much more during the weekdays when there weren't very many people and we could just wander casually through the streets. It was much better.
Yeah. And let's see other sites. There's lots of signs for like Baba food or Nonya food or Baba Nonya food, which is the hybrid Malay Chinese, also known as a Peranakan or Peranakan food. It's just a kind of a synonym, but Baba Nonya is more place specific. But some of that food is okay. So there's lots of different cuisine, and let's see, the Little India is nearby, so we had there's Indian food there, but it's
We had
not
some good
as
Indian
big.
food.
It doesn't seem to be as big as the Chinese population. Seems like
And
there's more choices.
So far, I gotta say, the Indian food in Kuala Lumpur
Superior.
was superior. I mean, it doesn't mean that there's a restaurant that still exists that we haven't found yet, but so far, Kuala Lumpur really had it going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Malacca it was historically huge multi-ethnic trading place. It was one of the key locations along this giant trade circuit that went all the way to East Africa. So people in East Africa, what's now Kenya and Tanzania, that's where Swahili comes from. It's from this trade network and the influence of, I believe it was Hindi and Arabic, and and local languages. So the impact is still felt, but according to the monsoon winds, which would change every year, a lot of people stayed half the year, or they'd spend half their life around East Africa and half their life in India and have two different families. And from Africa, they had gold and ivory and I think iron. And yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit 2 episodes ago. But giant trading network connecting Africa all the way to Japan and what's now Indonesia and India. And India was the Gujarati people in the northwest. They were a key part of that, and there's still some Gujarati influence in Malacca. There's a couple Hindu temples, and there's a big Sikh temple too, because the Sikhs used to be the police under British rule in Malaysia, at least here in Malacca.
Have we seen the Sikh temple?
We drove by it,
Okay.
and I was like, should I go see? It was built pretty recently.
Okay.
I can't remember the year, but there was Sikhs in Malacca tended to be the cops, so one of their cops became a pious saint in the Sikh religion, and there was a temple that was made basically for him, like remembering him, and it's still there. And they have free meals, free vegetarian meals, and I thought about that. I was like, it's so cynical to just go to their temple to get free food.
No.
But you have to cover your head, and you can't have any booze or meat on you. And I think that those are the only requirements.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's pretty cool.
Free food. Interesting.
Yeah, but there's also the oldest functioning Chinese temple in Malaysia, here, the Cheng Hun Tang Temple, and that is, it's basically a Taoist temple, but the goddess is a holdover from Buddhism. She's basically a rebranded bodhisattva from Buddhism. So that's interesting. There's it's all made by feng shui principles, and that's right next to Jonker Street. And there's all these awesome Chinese temples with shrines, even little ones with incense going, and all the red balloons.
Oh, there's so many lanterns, these beautiful red lanterns all through the streets. So walking through at night, I couldn't stop taking video and pictures of all these beautiful red lanterns everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And old buildings with the walls crumbling and the paint is kind of crumbling off, but it's in that way where it's really picturesque.
Yeah.
And a lot of the restaurants have that sort of look where it's like the green vines coming down, the cracked plaster wall, and old
tall
trinkets, tall
big
ceilings,
windows with shutters.
But it's so authentic, it's the real thing, it's the real deal,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's so cool to eat in these little cafes and restaurants.
Indian, Hindu temples and mosques. And mosques are a little farther out away from Jonker Street. I don't remember quite as many of those as I did Chinese temples and Indian temples, but they also have some speakeasies.
Oh, yeah.
We went to a
We
few where it's
discovered a few.
you go in and it's like a coffee shop, and they're like, do you want
The bottom floor is a coffee
bottom
shop.
floor, and then open a secret door for the speakeasy if we ask for it by name, and you go upstairs, these steep stairs, and there's all these rooms and a whole staff up there making fancy cocktails for people. And across the street from that one, there was this wonderful old lady. Everyone calls her Auntie, but she's been operating that thing for how long?
It's at least 40 or 50 years, but the bar itself has been in operation even longer. Before her, I think it was father-in-law.
Yeah.
I don't remember specifically. I think his father-in-law was running it, and maybe even his dad.
It's the oldest bar in Malacca.
Yeah. So she now was actually watching. There's a video on YouTube of her bar and of her, and it was saying that it's been in the more recent times since the internet that her bar has actually gotten kind of famous because people find out about her on the internet and on YouTube. And then so more recently, the tourists and people from, not the locals, but people who are here traveling, they'll go seek out her bar because she's become kind of famous. She's the auntie serving these drinks. And she said she herself doesn't really drink, but she serves. And so we went in and we tried some very unique liquor, stuff we'd never had before.
Yeah.
Do you want to say a little bit about that? What did you
Well, the
drink?
name of the bar is the Sin Xiaopin.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember that one of them was made of bamboo. And one of them, the first one she offered me was...
Had like rose water?
She was like, this one's rose water, and this one is not durian.
But the rose water
I
one
tried it.
was
I was like,
so intense.
whoa.
It was like turpentine or something.
No, it was
Not
like,
turpentine.
imagine drinking kind of cheap perfume.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was like chemical. It tasted like perfume.
I don't remember which one I had. I had a what is that fruit called? It's called, let's see, there's our picture of it. Oh goodness, what is the name of that fruit? Lychee.
Lychee, yeah.
Lychee. Yeah, it was a lychee liquor, and it actually was decent, and it was very strong. It gave this very fun liquor high. So after that, I kind of wandered through the streets, definitely feeling altered, but in a good way.
Lots of rice wine, and
then she said that her
Arak.
father-in-law...
Arak, which is what they call the liquor in Malaysia. But we were trying stuff from Borneo, stuff from here, stuff from China.
Well, and then we went back the second time, and then she served you something that I think it was her father-in-law had used to drink, and it was an herbal. It was like this very herbal concoction. It was some sort of liquor, pretty strong.
It was like 15 different spices from China.
It smelled very spicy.
Is that the one that says that's good for like waist slimming?
Yeah, it did. It said it's good for waist slimming and like what ails you.
And longevity and stuff. But she's like, yeah, my father-in-law died of liver cancer.
But he lived to be pretty old, though, too. And she
really
said he drank most of his life, but he did actually live a long life.
2 bottles a day.
She was like, he drank, all day. And then she said, okay, so that was the one for I think she said the one you drank was more for the males. And then she pointed to another one, which was in this green, what's that kind of pottery called?
Celadon.
Oh, Celadon. It was like in this green Celadon pottery.
It's ceramic, but it like polished ceramic that's kind of the color of jade.
Yeah. And so it was in this ceramic round bottle. And then she said this one was good for women. So I haven't tried that one yet, but there were 2 women who were also at the bar, and they were, tourists, and they were having a little swig of that, and the woman said it was pretty strong. So we'll see. If we make it back a third time, I'm going to try that one. So
she's got three shrines to Chinese deities around the place, including one in the back room where the lights are off, with all these candles going around this shrine that's up on the wall. And I thought one of them was the 3 pure ones, which are important in the cosmology around here. And I don't know, I thought maybe one of them was the kitchen god. And I didn't see the goddess, but it's kind of hard because every time that there's a shrine with a deity, like the picture changes a little bit, and I'm just not quite familiar enough to know which guy with a beard is which guy with a beard, because sometimes they're holding different stuff. I don't know. But it's got its own unique smell and sight. And aura.
Well, and she said, we were talking to this woman, the auntie, and she said that it has not been redecorated. Like, it's always been the same way since I think she started working there in her 20s. She's probably been working at that bar for 40 years or so. She
has a fridge that's smaller than like my parents' fridge in America, and that's where she keeps the beer. It's like a normal. She's got different beer and different things that she keeps cold. I think maybe soju or something.
I don't think most people order that.
But most people don't order it. But she's got this small refrigerator, and a lot of the bottles look like they've been refilled with like a cheap paper label put on them. And some of the bottles are like ceramic, and
but yeah, most of the liquor stuff I've never seen, never heard of, never tried.
A lot of it's written in Chinese,
it's from
so
China and different places that are not. It's not like the normal stuff that we have.
She puts it all out. She puts like
she even
5
had a
bottles.
Tequila from Malaysia, I think.
Yeah. She puts all these bottles on the bar in front of you when you sit down. There's like 5, and she's like, "Oh, this one's good for this. This one's good for this." And I was like, "I want snake juice." Why? Well, I didn't say snake juice. I was like snake wine, and I showed her a picture on my phone of like a snake in a bottle. I was like, "Do they do that in Malaysia anywhere?" And she's like, "Oh no, you have to go to Thailand or
China
or China for that." And I was like, "Oh man, gotta get that snake juice." But she, what was it? Silkworm is what
Oh,
she
she
had.
has silkworm.
Silkworm. I was like, does it have a silkworm in it, like a worm from like tequila?
Yeah, no.
And she's like, no, there's no silkworm.
It was very dark color.
She showed it to
It was like
us.
this brown color.
Brown. I want to try that, but I think it costs a lot.
Well, maybe before we go, we'll
Maybe
give it.
before we go, it's like
Yeah.
one shot is like $10 or something
Oh
like that.
well, I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
I think
it's
maybe
doable.
more, actually.
We'll have to go. We'll go find out.
15. Okay, but
But also not just okay. So the bar itself is so cool. It's like small and like homey because I think the lady lives in the back. It felt like it was her home, and then the bar is in the front.
got a gate.
It has a gate,
like a
yeah.
metal gate that you can like. You have to ask if it's okay to come in, and she'll like wheel open this.
Oh, she'll
gate.
totally open it though. Like if you're there to give her business, she'll just totally open it up and serve you. But it's not only the look of the place and all these cool, interesting liquors she has, and the fact that it's really never been redecorated and it's just the same way it's looked, since 40 years ago. It's also just this woman herself. Like her as a human being is so much fun just to be in her presence. I felt like even though she's been doing this for 40 years, she like treated us like we're her first customers or something,
That's
it's
why
like
everyone calls her auntie.
yeah, like she just treats you like
family.
She treats you like family, and it just felt so good to be in this bar with this woman, just so friendly and just so homey feeling.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she.
It's probably one of my favorite bar experiences of all time. I pretty much have to
yeah.
say this has to be number one of any bar I've ever experienced in my life. And it's largely because of her and just the whole atmosphere. Oh my God, it's so much fun.
Some people are just naturally charismatic
Yeah.
and sincere,
Yeah.
which is her superpower.
Her superpower.
Yeah, it's a dark little ramshackle place.
I know, but she fills it with like her twinkle.
Yeah. Oh,
So
man, what a great place.
it was a great place.
All right.
All right, so
Anything
bars.
else?
Oh, the other thing I wanted to backtrack. You were talking about the Strait of Malacca, right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, so the first week or so we were here, we were just seeing all the sights, getting the lay of the land, and then we decided that we were going to make this a home base for a month. So we set on this little search for an apartment. We, found a few, whatever. We looked at a few didn't work, and then finally the third one worked. And what's interesting about it is that there is a balcony, and the balcony in the distance you can see the ocean, which is actually the Strait of Malacca. So every day when I go out on that patio for sunset and I look out there, there's always at least like 20, 25 huge boats, because like Keith was saying, this is one of the major
Choke points.
choke points. What were we saying?
It's between Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula.
So
it's
all
like
the-
something like 40% of the world's trade goes through here.
Yeah, so all these boats are carrying shipments of who knows what, and they're all going through the strait. So it's really interesting to sit out on this patio and every day see these boats just like moving through. And these are like huge boats.
It looks like a lot of them are just kind of hanging out.
But I think they just move really slowly,
Really? Sometimes I think that there's still supply chain issues
Oh, perhaps.
from the weird supply line screw up of the pandemic. So maybe some of them are a little early getting into
Okay, well,
port,
for all-
and they
I
have
mean,
to wait.
I
And
just
some of them just
assumed-
hang out there forever. And
I
when
just
we're
assumed
like
they
in
were
the
new
gym,
boats.
I'm always looking there and looking out at the boats, and I'm like, they're not moving. A bunch of them, like we're talking oil tankers and cargo ships,
Yeah.
just sitting there.
I just assumed they're moving really slowly.
I'm sure they move eventually, but they might be waiting for
that could be.
clearance in Singapore or something.
Yeah,
Like they don't
yeah.
dock here; they just go by.
But they're like hanging out deep in the ocean. That's true. Yeah. So from the gym, also, you can look out and you can see the ocean in the distance. So that's the interesting thing about living in this apartment, is just feeling like, I don't know, it's like we're watching the world trade like happen before our very eyes every day, which is kind of interesting to contemplate.
And watching the sunsets, which is magnificent.
Yeah. We're,
Every
'cause we're
night,
facing the west. Yeah.
facing the west, and the Muslim call to prayer goes
Yes.
off right at sunset.
And early in the morning, about 6:30.
Yeah, but at night we get a giant, like colorful, cloud-ridden sunset sky,
Cloudscape.
and every night there's lightning, like massive lightning. Sometimes it's more massive than not, but like It's
Yeah,
just
and the
amazing
lightning,
to me.
it's not just like lightning bolt lightning, which I'm used to. It also
Chain,
had like chain lightning. There's also like this strange, it's almost like a lamp light being turned on and off. It's like the whole sky lights up and then it turns off and lights up and it turns off. I don't think I've actually ever seen this sort of lightning anywhere before. This lamp on off sort of thing. It's magnificent.
It's so regular too.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And there's a lot of rain,
Yeah, there's been a good amount.
like an hour of downpour.
Didn't you
every
say
evening.
we're starting?
The monsoon? It's going to get even more intense at the end of the month in May, late May.
Yeah, but we're at the very beginning of the monsoon
Yeah,
season,
we
I
got
believe.
rained on the other day. More.
Oh yeah, it was coming down.
So yeah, the Malacca international. It was, like I said, the Africa to Japan and China center of world trade, or one of the centers. And then the Portuguese came and they thought they could take over, muscle in, and they took over and they just ended up killing it. Like they killed the trade, and then piracy flourished because they had a whole system down here, the Sultan, of squashing pirates and making it safe for trade and having a good system to make sure all the different ethnic groups were properly taken care of with their own supervisors while they were in port here. And then apparently after the Portuguese ruined this place, the Dutch, they started their own. They were in control of Java down in what's now Indonesia, and that was a giant center of commerce. And they're like, you know what? This is our opportunity to crush this little competitor and make our place even stronger. So they snatched Malacca for a while, and they were good at it. I mean, they were like much more capitalistic and a lot less feudal. Very good at business and stuff. Then the British took over, and they made Malacca its own like direct British colony. So Malaysia is ruled by 9 sultans, or in theory they're ceremonial now, but there's 9 sultans, and there's 2 what were 2 different British direct colonies with no sultan. And so Malacca and Penang are like 2 of 4 places out of 13 in Malaysia where there's no sultan. So it's its own little enclave without a fake dictator. Yeah, interesting place.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else about Malacca?
Goodness, I think that's about it for right now. I mean, I'm sure there'll be more in time, but I think we're good. It's a good place to call home for the next month, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So this is Sunday, May 7th, 2023. We are in Malacca on the west coast of the Malay Peninsula in Malaysia, and we will see you next time.
All right. Till then, bye.
Bye.